Hey guys, what is up and welcome to my channel. It's a Hardback Life. My name is Jordan, and today we're going to talk about the Grisha Verse as a whole, or at least mostly the books that I've read in the Grisha Verse, and obviously the books I have yet to read. We're doing this because the Shadow and Bone adaptation based off of this book series, Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, is now a TV show, and I am super pumped to watch the show later on today. It is currently Friday, April 23rd. I think it's almost 2 a.m. Or maybe it's past 2 a.m. I don't know. But the Shadow and Bone trilogy premieres today on Netflix. And so I'm going to be binging that series. I'm hoping, though, that they don't dip into the second or the third book, so that I'm hoping the whole first season focuses on book one. So that's my hope. But anyway, regardless of that, I'm super excited to read this. The Shadow and Bone trilogy consists of Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. Other books in the Grisha Verse are Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which is part of the Six of Crows duology, and King of Scars duology, which consists of King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, which is the second and final book obviously in the duology. And this just came out, and I'm aware that these books are mismatched. I could not find the hardcover in stores. I probably could have bought it via some other online source or whatever, because I know they're guaranteed to find it. But I was just at Barnes & Noble one day and I saw the paperback and I was like, oh, I want this finally. And then I got this when it came out at Barnes & Noble. But we're going to focus mainly on the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Shadow and Bone is about a girl named Alina Starkov, who is an orphan living in, I believe, Western Ravka. Her best friend Mal has accompanied her in her life because he's also an orphan and they grew up together. And in this world, we have these magical beings called Grisha, which are basically people that have magical powers, and they're very specific powers too. Like, we have summoners, which are called Etherealnik, I think is how you say that, and then we have the Corporalnik, which are the people who can, or who deal with the body, basically. You have your healers, and then you have your heart renders, which are people who can basically stop your heart, and then you have the fabricators, which are people who basically deal with a lot of material things. So they can wield metal or any kind of matter. But the summoners, which I mentioned before, those people can basically summon and manipulate the elements. We have the Inferni, which are people who can control fire. And then we have the Tide Makers, who obviously summon water, and it's pretty cool. And we have the Squallers, which are people who control wind. And then we have people who are super unique, like the Darkling and Alina, who are Alina is a sun summoner, and basically she can summon light. And the Darkling is, well, his name speaks for itself. he can summon darkness, and it's not pretty. And basically, in their world, uh, Ravka is kind of trapped because there's this thing called the Shadowfold, which the Darkling created, acts by accident, and it's basically separating Ravka from the rest of the world. And in the Shadowfold is like this complete darkness, and there's also these creatures called the Vokra, who are like kind of like these gigantic birds, and yeah, it's bad, and this is affecting Ravka really badly because one of the big things that they do is trade, and unfortunately, they have to go through the Shadowfold to get to the other side of the city, and obviously trade in other parts of the country. But obviously, they have to risk their lives doing it. And also in this world, other places are advancing more on weaponry, which is obviously a threat to the Grishas. And because obviously there's these weapons, like simple thing like guns and stuff like that, can stop a Grisha. And also there's two separate armies. I'm sorry if my thoughts are all over the place. It's late at night and whatever, but we have the first army, which is mostly made up of humans, and then we have the second army, which is the Grisha army. And obviously, there's a lot of humans who are against the Grisha because they think they're an abomination. And so a lot of the humans would love nothing more than to get rid of the Grisha as a whole. And the Darkling's main mission, and like throughout the series, is to take over, rebuild the Grisha army, and obviously gain some followers and destroy the rest of the world because of how much they oppose Grisha. And so that's just basically the series in a nutshell. And obviously we have our main protagonist, Alina, who is a threat to the Darkling because she's basically his equal. He summons darkness, she summons light, and the light can obviously destroy, potentially, the Shadowfold, destroy it, and she basically makes it her mission in life to destroy the Darkling because of, obviously, his evilness. That was just basically kind of a big summary of the series. I hope I didn't say anything super spoilery. I don't think I did. Anyway, but yeah, that's basically Shadow and Bone. And the series, like I said, starts today, and I cannot wait to watch it. And I'm really hoping that they do not dip into the rest of the book series because I have not finished Shadow and Bone trilogy. I've only read Shadow and Bone all the way through, and I'm almost halfway through Siege and Storm. So, yeah. I have also read the Six of Crows duology. I definitely have put this duology on the list of my favorite book series of all time because I am someone who is very huge into character driven stories. And this is definitely that. Like, Lee Bardugo focuses on all six characters, six main characters, and just their backstories and their development. And it's just so good. And this series ultimately at least in my opinion, wrecks you. So if you haven't read the Six of Crows duology yet, be prepared for it wrecking you, like I said, because it wrecked me. I was crying. I was crying, and I had to sit with my feelings. But this book series is basically about 6 characters who come together and essentially commit a heist. And our main characters are Kaz Brecker, who will make an appearance in Shadow and Bone, the Netflix series, so super excited about that. Also, Inej Gafar, who will also make an appearance. And then Jesper Fahey, I think is how you say his last name. Or Fahey. He'll also make an appearance in the Shadow and Bone series. And I don't know about Nina Zenik or Matthias Helvar or Wylan Van Eck if they're going to make appearances. But we know from the trailer that we'll at least see Inej, Kaz, and Jesper. So I'm super excited for that because all those characters are super fantastic. And this book series is super, super good. And then we have the King of Scars duology, which consists of King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. And I know the series is mismatched. That's because I just bought the paperback version of King of Scars at Barnes & Noble, because that's what they had. They didn't have the hardback at the time. And then, obviously, I just bought Rule of Wolves, and I can't wait to get to this duology, but it's gonna be a little bit, because I have to finish the Shadow and Bone trilogy. This series focuses on King Nikolai. Nikolai makes appearances in all 3 series. His appearance in Six of Crows is brief. He's like, I think he appears in book 2, Crooked Kingdom. And then, obviously, he's the main character in this series, so he's all over this book series. And then, he makes his debut, at least as a character, in Siege and Storm. And I'm not going to tell you how he appears, because it's pretty cool. But yeah. I have just been enjoying my time reading this series. And I love Leigh Bardugo's writing. I think it's fantastic. And I think it's definitely quite a bit different than some fantasy series I've read. So I am super grateful that I have finally read this series. I read Six of Crows, like I said, the first book series I read in this whole universe back in September and October, and I loved it. Gave both books 5 stars. And then obviously I just started the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I meant to start it last year, but that didn't happen because I was focusing on other books. But I'm finally reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Loving it so far, pretty much. I think it's pretty good. And then I cannot wait to get to King of Scars, like I said. Anyway, you guys, I just wanted to share that little bit about the Grishaverse in general. And you guys should definitely read the book series, all the book series, because so far I have not been let down. I love each book that I've read. And also, even if you don't want to read the books, which I think you should definitely watch the TV show and support the arts. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys, that's all I have for you today. Stay tuned for my assumptions video. I might actually edit that and post that today as well, because I'm going to be posting this later on today. Anyway, you guys, I shall see you later.